Hello, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to this open session for questions and answers. It's fun to be here. I'm excited for this session because we'll be talking about a number of things which I am noticing that you are asking. And I've been keeping this question in mind. And I'm also noting the questions which are repeating and recurring. Because if they're repeating and recurring, it means that you're probably all facing this issue to some extent. So I'll try to do as much as I possibly can to answer all of these questions. In any case, the way I select them and the way I choose them, I have at least six of them selected from the list of your questions which you have been asking. So I'll select the ones which I think are most pertinent, most relevant. In any case, you will get something or else out of the session. If individually your questions are left unanswered, for example, if that happens, then you can always email me and we remain in touch, and we will hopefully continue to have such sessions in the future, so that won't be an issue. Now I am beginning with a very important question which I have found was repeated the most number of times. The frequency of this question amongst all of your questions was the maximum, and that question is current affairs, and with more specificity about newspaper. Now I have been getting this question for a while. Students, when they come in the beginning and perhaps even till the end, this question doesn't stop bothering them, this current affairs. And I think that you are justified in your confusion. I think you're justified in that, in this problem. Current affairs is difficult because there is no clear cut mechanism or strategy. Now I'll be honest with you, I had stopped reading the newspaper because I started to get my information from other sources. But ever since this question has been uh, constantly being uh, put to me, and it's constantly being asked, I have subscribed to the newspaper again, and I've been looking at it very carefully. I've been looking at it very, very carefully to find out what is the best possible way for you to deconstruct it. You see, basically, the question that you are facing is how do you synthesize this? This is at least 80,000 words, maybe a lot more. This is a whole book. Okay, this is a lot of information every single day. How are you going to synthesize all of this in the few factors, in the few points, in the few numbers that you will need? This is difficult. This is not easy. There has to be a mechanism. I am building that mechanism. Already some very good ideas are in the pipeline, and something will emerge which will resolve this issue. I cannot speak for the other issues, but this issue of current affairs, I can guarantee will be resolved. Now, this system is still being formulated. Like I have the hexatask method and a number of other systems which I keep telling you about. The system for current affairs, I will not go into detail, but I will give you an overview, a preview, so that you can take it forward and then you can use it on your own. How would I do it? First things first, you get the newspaper regardless of what newspaper you use, whether it's the Hindu or it's the Indian Express. I want you to set a timer in your phone or your mobile or whatever mechanism you want for a period of 25 minutes. 25 minutes, no more. 25 minutes, you will have to cover the newspaper, and I'll tell you exactly how I would do it. This is not a detailed overview. This is going to be a preview. Okay. So follow along and see what I'm doing. First thing, I open the thing, right? And here is what I'm going to do. I will not read any fine print. I will read no fine print whatsoever. I am going to read only the headlines and the subtopics, only the main headlines and the subtopics. So on this page, on the main page itself, the only thing which I will be able to read, which I can read, which I am allowed to read according to this rule, ex-judge of Punjab High Court to monitor UP probe. That I can read. Supreme Court constitutes SIT by including 3 IPS officers. Fine. Kartarpur crossing is mentioned. Bureaucratic inertia is mentioned. Supreme Court relief for scribe lawyers in UAPA case is mentioned, and school enrollment fell during the pandemic. Some study is mentioned, right? The question in front of me is the question in front of me is will I how do I synthesize this information? First thing I do is I'm going to use something colorful, something loud, something which I can't miss, and I'm going to circle the things which I think are important. I'm going to only put them in a border. I am not reading further. I'll put them on a border and I'll show you what I'm doing. I have put them in a border, right? I don't know if you can see, it's slightly light. The color is too light. I suggest using something darker. I will do this for this entire newspaper in no more than 5 minutes. In no more than 5 minutes, I will box out and I will filter the columns and the squares which I am going to read. Okay. And then I'm going to do something different, and then I'm going to go into some detail. And what will be my detail, I will show you in a second. What will happen is that I will have a bunch of these boxed out, materials. Then the question comes, to what extent should I study these? To what extent should I be going into them? To what detail should I study them? And the answer is not too much. Not too much. If you are reading about this ASR study, for instance, I don't want to know what exactly the newspaper says. What I'm interested in knowing is what is this ASR study. So I'm going to highlight the main keywords. I want you to filter keywords next. I will highlight annual status of education report 2021. Now, annual status of education report 2021, given the era of COVID, obviously is important, and I'm sure I will find something when I end up Googling it. I don't care about what is exactly mentioned here, because most likely, it's going to be a developing story. It will evolve, it will develop, and I don't want to fall into the details. And I don't want to memorize it, because I will not remember it in any case. The examination, at least, uh, depends on when you're reading the newspaper, is going to be a few months down the line. All I want to know is what keyword should I have in my possession, such that at the time when I'm revising, I input that keyword and I get all my relevant details. The keyword for this is ASER, Annual Status of Education Report 2001. When I sit down and I synthesize all the information, I will end up Googling it. I will find out which ministry, which organization takes this report out. I will make a note of it. And I will also understand what the basic findings of that report are. I won't go into the detail too much. This is what you must do. First, filter and box out the important columns in no more than 5 minutes. Then scan those columns on at a cursory level. Don't worry about memorizing anything. Don't worry about any details. Don't worry about facts, because they will always be there. Once the data is out there in today's digital world, the data is always there. You just have to know where to look for it. And so you find the keywords which are going to lead you to all the relevant information. You circle those keywords, you highlight those keywords, and it is the extraction of those keywords that we are after. That is how I would do the newspaper. Now, you ask me if it is important and if it is okay to skip the newspaper. I would say avoid that. I would say avoid skipping the newspaper. I would say that the examination is becoming increasingly dynamic. I don't want you to read the newspaper necessarily. I don't want you to invest an hour and a half every day, but I do want you to extract keywords. And here's why. You see, the thing piles up very quickly. Before you realize it, the newspaper pile is going to grow and become taller than you. And it will become very intimidating, because you will have way too much information to consume, and it's simply not possible to do all of it when the time comes. However, a list of keywords, and the relevant ones, will take you exactly at the right place. And like you have already experienced, what happens when I input a keyword and I search for Google News for that keyword, I will find the same article out there, won't I? That is the approach I want you to use. Now, the material from coaching institutes, Insights, IAS, and all the other institutes which bring out the current affairs material is good. The material is very comprehensive, but I would say it is way too factual, and there is no context. You will find a bunch of data out there. Okay, the way they make their material for current affairs is designed for comprehensiveness. It is not designed for conceptual clarity. This is the issue. You will find a lot of data about a lot of things without any context whatsoever, without any conceptual understanding whatsoever. How are you supposed to get the conceptual understanding? You are supposed to get it as you go, day by day, keyword by keyword, progressively, as your knowledge network expands. This is an organic process. This can't be forced. This is a organic, rather slow and gradual process You see, knowledge builds upon networks. As knowledge grows, the network gets richer. And the network, once it gets richer, will lead to an exponential increase in the things that you know. You'll have to harness that. And that is the way I would approach newspapers. But like I said, a very, very detailed mechanism, tool, and system is being created for this. I hope to have it out there soon, but let us see when that happens. I expect to have it out there in a month or so. I am getting questions. Ramiz is asking me, should we prepare current affairs for the past 1.5, 2 to 3 years? Ramiz, I think if you're going at this, if you're attacking this problem keyword to keyword, 1 year should be more than enough, because I'm not tracking events. I'm not asking you to track events. I am asking you to track keywords. And from those keywords, I'm asking you to track whatever news is related to those keywords, right? So as soon as you insert a keyword, let us say today's keyword, which I have highlighted, for example, this keyword is the annual status of education report 2001. 6 months from now, when the examination is over my head, I will input this keyword in Google and I will search for Google News, and I will get not only this article, I will get other articles associated with this keyword. That is what I want you to do. And I believe if you're doing that, 1 year should be more than enough. 1 year. That's your answer. Gitesh, it is important point regarding to coaching institutes. I do understand, and their material, you see, you can't skip it because it's important. They cover everything, but you can't rely on it because they don't give context. They don't give conceptual clarity. That is up to you to make. Now, I have taught you quite a bunch of things to do that, so you can always use that. I can see a lot of familiar names. In fact, memorize and remember most of your names. Mohit, for instance, is asking a lot of questions. Mohit, you are asking the same question I see, and I guess that you are desperate for an answer. Practically possible to complete Spectrum and NCRT in just 5 to 6 days. Mohit, what is in first reading? What is first reading? First reading is not a detailed reading. First reading is me going through a book and trying to figure out where everything is located and trying to understand what is it that I'm dealing with in a general sense. So yes, it is possible to cover 200, 400, 500 pages in 5 to 6 days. Certainly, why not? Yes, it is possible. Sejal Mishra asks, how to prepare science and tech in environment. This is one of my, science and tech is my favorite, I would say. And I've been fascinated with it for a while. I have a very different approach to science and tech, which should be able to simplify your preparation by a very, very large margin. I am especially happy about the approach of science and tech, which I haven't yet revealed because I haven't formalized it into the form of a video or a lesson, which I will do, which is very much in the pipeline. But what I would do is this. You see, in science and tech, you get a very, very healthy, good feed coming from Facebook and Google. Science and tech keeps happening, some research keeps coming, technological developments keep happening. Now there are aggregators in the internet. On the internet, there are aggregators of this information who are sitting there doing nothing but aggregating the important science and tech issues. Okay, all you have to do is get tapped into their feed. Now, how do you do that? You can do that through either Facebook, or you can do that through Google, or you can do that through your own independent search. What I do personally, this is my own personal strategy to keep myself updated on the things which I am interested in, right? What I do is this. I log into my Facebook account and I unfollow all people. I literally unfollow all humans, all people. I know that sounds funny, but it's true. I do that. I unfollow every single person, and I like some pages. I will like science show. I will like pop science, popular science. I will like National Geographic, so that the feed from these pages, whenever they update information, and as soon as I open my feed, is out there in front of me. Now, what I've done is by eliminating people, I have eliminated all types of information which is not relevant to me from the point of view of the examination, and I can always, you know, friend them again, and I can always continue my conversation with them on Facebook. But if you are planning on using Facebook, it is a very, very good stream feed of information if you know how to use it. So unfriend or mute all the people, like the important pages, and see that feed once a day, not more. Click on the items and the articles which you find are very useful, and Facebook will give you an option to save those articles, to save unread articles. Save those articles in your catalog. So at the end of 6 months, you will have a whole list of saved articles, and you won't have to read all of them because you will get some information uh, just by reading and through your searches and through your analysis. Indumathi asks how to remember daily current affairs. Indumathi, the idea is not to remember daily current affairs. We don't want to remember daily current affairs because daily current affairs, we don't know if they will be relevant 6 months from today or not. We want to remember important stuff. But the issue with daily current affairs is that we don't yet know what is important. So we make the best possible guess and we filter out keywords which can take us to the relevant information after a while, after we sit up and do those searches, and we filter those things out. Mohammed asks, I have a doubt of completing different year subjects in 7 days. Mohammed, that is, I know, a tough task. It is. But get cracking, get at it, do it. 17 days is a long time. I Let me share something personal with you. I realized the importance of days when I went to a meditation retreat. I went to Vipassana retreat, and it's a 10-day retreat. In that 10-day meditation retreat, you cannot speak. You cannot even, it is recommended not even to make eye contact so that your concentration should not break. You are alone with yourself for 10 days straight. It's actually 11 days. For 10 days straight, without talking, without any reading material. They don't allow you to take books in there or copies or pens. No music, no phone, nothing. It's just you in a room, and they have meditation sessions. I tell you, 17 days is an eternity. It is an eternity if you're using your time well. In 17 days, if you're sitting down and really focusing for even 4 hours a day, after 17 days, you could be a different person. I'm not kidding. That's the truth. It's happened. And it does happen. Try it sometime. Chetan, I understand your question is about working professionals. It's a very valid question. Another thing which has been on my mind, and how do working professionals, manage their time? The same question has been asked by many of you about how to manage college with UPSC preparation and how to manage both of these things. And the question ultimately boils down to a matter of time management. So this is a serious issue. This is what I would like to tell you. Please listen carefully and take note of this particular thing. The issue is not time management. The issue is energy management. The problem with working professionals or with college students is not time. You will be able to take out 1 hour, 2 hour. The problem is how will you concentrate in that time? If you are a working professional, I assume that you're working rather hard. You're probably traveling. There is no mental energy to sit down and read Bipin Chandra and sit down and read Lakshmikant. You're already exhausted. You're already drained. Your brain needs to be fresh if you are going to absorb all this information for the UPSC. This is an issue. How do you resolve that issue? Here's what I would do. I am myself a working professional and I have to manage my time very carefully. I don't exaggerate when I say that some days I have to manage my time to the minute, literally to the minute. And I'm able to do that most days because, first of all, I know exactly when what is supposed to happen. I prioritize my days and I prioritize the tasks on my days. I try never to have more than 3 important tasks in a day, and I try to always make sure that those 3 are eliminated. If anything I do or not, I try to do that. The other thing I note is that during what time of the day is my brain the best? You will know that for yourself. Ask yourself, at what time of the day is your mental capacity working its best? Maybe you are a night person. I am. After 6 p.m., I find that my cognitive abilities are better than they are in the day. This is a unique thing, and this is going to be a different thing for you as well, right? So you find out what is the best time for you. If you're a working professional, I suggest waking up 1 or 2 hours before your time and absorbing some information, but make sure there is no planning required in the morning, in the day when you are focusing on some UPSC related stuff. I want you already to have planned it before you go to bed the day prior to that. Plan it, keep it. So that when you get up, when you have your cup of coffee or tea, it's already there in front of you. Get it done. You see, get it done. If you get that one thing done, one thing, it will lead to a cascade effect. It will lead to a chain reaction that you will end up doing everything and you will become hyper efficient. It boils down to energy management. You have to manage the energy, you have to invest the energy, and you have to save some energy from your work. You know that not all your work is going to require 100% concentration. Most of the time, for many hours, you'll be spending time and waiting for the day to get over. And many jobs are like that. Use that time to conserve your mental energy or consume information on YouTube. Here's another trick for you, which I use very frequently. I purchased the subscription for YouTube Premium. It cost me around 200 bucks a month, I think, approximately. In any case, it's not expensive. Why did I do that? YouTube Premium allows me to have YouTube playing on my phone. YouTube will play on my phone even when the phone is not locked. Right now it's open, right? But if I lock it, YouTube will shut. With YouTube Premium, this doesn't happen. I will close it. I will keep it somewhere. If I am driving, I will listen to some audiobook or some video. And if I'm sitting there waiting for something, I might listen to some lecture. I might do, for your case, in your case, perhaps you should do some big picture formation during that time. You will have to take out time and you'll have to steal time in the middle for these things. Another question, we'll take another question. Manish, my friend Manish in my mentorship program has asked me what should be done about multiple examinations. Say you're preparing for the state public services and you're preparing for the UPSC as well. What do you do about that? Manish, I would say, and to anybody who is in Manish's situation, I would say find the area of overlaps. What is the area of overlaps? If I'm not mistaken, most state PCS exams are going to have some overlap with general studies, right? It's going to have some overlap with general studies, possibly will have some overlap with the writing. So you're going to have to write answers. You need to have a good base of general studies. Prioritize that overlap. Do the polity which is going to come in the state services examination as well as in the UPSC first, and do it really, really well, so that that ripple effect can happen and that cascade of effect can happen. That if that percentage of overlap is around 50-60% or more, which I believe is the case in most of these examinations, most of the government examinations, then you can prepare for more than one. It is possible. And I would say recommended, because in the process of appearing in the UPSC examination, if you get some exercise, if you go out, appear for this examination, the state examination, the other examinations, the RBI exam, for instance, you put yourself out there. It's excellent practice. And if you happen to clear any one of them, it is excellent mental security. It's a good idea to prepare for more than one, but it should not pull you in two different directions. The direction needs to be same, and you need to optimize that route that you're taking. Nikita is asking, skip making notes. Nikita, you would like to skip making notes. Well, I don't recommend it, Nikita, but the manner in which you make notes, you see, matters. The way in which I made notes, I am comfortable in recommending, is a very good idea. Please first annotate. You know what annotation is? Do you know what annotation is? Let me show you an example. I have with me a book which I really like. This is one of my favorites. The book is called Flow, right? It was written by this gentleman here. His name is almost impossible to pronounce. Almost impossible to pronounce. His name is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi is was a world-renowned psychologist. In fact, he passed away 2 days ago, 3 days ago. So, in his honor and remembering him and this wonderful piece of work that he has done, I would like to talk about this book and also answer your question simultaneously. How do you make notes? If I was to make notes of this book, the first thing I would do is annotate. Annotation is me trying to put very small keyword. You see here, I've written one word here, wonder. I've written the word wonder. The word wonder appears in the text when I read, and I've written it because it strikes me as the most important word. And as soon as I hit that word, as soon as I read that word again, I know exactly what he's going to talk about in the chapter. So first annotate and write these small keywords. Here's some more annotation. See what I've done here. I have written something along the margins, not too much, not too much. I have written something along the margins here as well. And as soon as I read this page, I read this book 3 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago. And now when I read it, as soon as I look at the annotations and the margins, I realize what is being spoken about, right? So first annotate, then convert into notes. And the notes as well also should be such that you take a look at them and you can then get a glimpse of the entire content in an instant. This requires a full session on its own, right? I'm just trying to give you whatever material I can give you. I see that a lot of questions are being repeated. I understand that you would like them answered. Uh, Optional psychology. A lot of people have asked optional psychology. I think this requires a very detailed discussion because I don't think people understand what psychology is, academic psychology. You see, what happens is when you take an optional subject, you are expected to be in sync with, in line with what is happening in the academia of that subject, right? So if you were to judge yourself on psychology or history or mathematics, you can't judge yourself based on the UPSC examination or any coaching institute. You need to know, am I in line with what is happening in academia, in philosophy, in psychology? What is happening in academia, in philosophy and psychology? What's happening, at least in psychology, that it has become more and more and more rigorous, very scientific. You can't say a single word without quoting a study. You can't say a single thing without showing how that study was conducted. You can't talk about subjective things in psychology. This is not pop psychology, you know. This is hard psychology. It is a science, and the way you write answers and the way you approach the subject has to be scientific. You need to catch that essence and what is happening in the professional field, and that you have to reflect in your examination to some degree, right? So if I go and I want to ask somebody a question about reinforcement learning, or say about vicarious learning by Albert Bandura, for instance, just for example, I don't want to see there a, a quotation by somebody. I don't want to see a definition necessarily. I want to know what the research has said about that. I want to know what it says, and I want to know how the research was conducted. I want to know how the conclusions were drawn. If you're telling me that stuff, it means you're on the right track. This again is something which requires a much more detailed session. Yeah, hopefully we'll do. Certainly will do. A roadmap for 2024, 25, 23. Rimjim asks me that question. Note making for newspaper is how much relevant? Also, Swati has asked. Swati, I just mentioned that note making is not too relevant, but extracting keywords is relevant and recommended about newspapers. Is it possible to cover mains only GS subjects? It is possible, but not recommended because they'll ask you a lot of questions about a lot of other things as well. How to improve language? Yeah, I see your questions. I see your questions, and I can see a lot of repetitions in your questions as well. So, how you would like to know prelims? Yes. How to prepare a strategy for 2022, 2023? Okay. Let us ignore 2023 and beyond, and let us assume if you are planning on giving the examination in 2024, forget it. Assume that your examination is 2023. If you take the date as 2024, it is too distant into the future. You probably will not be able to give it as much seriousness as it requires. Even if you are attempting in 2024 or 25, assume that it's in 2023. Now, two types of people, two types of situations. Those who are attempting in 2022, which is about 6.5 months away from today. Those who are attempting in 2023, that gives them one more year. So they have about 18 months approximately. 18 months approximately, which is a year and a half. Here is what I would do. I would start with two things. I would start with general studies and I would attack the core. for both cases, for 2022, for 2023. I would do the things which I know are absolutely critical, without which I am not clearing this exam. What are those things without which I am not clearing this examination? I will not clear it without polity. Probably will not clear it without polity. I probably won't clear it if I have no knowledge of history also. So I'll get some knowledge at least, so that I have a fighting chance at the very least. I will not clear it if I don't understand economics, and if I don't understand what is happening in the economic sphere of the country, right? So I'll do that. I'll make sure my concepts, at least in economics, even if I don't have a wide knowledge about it, are good enough, right? So I'll do that. I will make sure my general studies has a solid base at the very least. Now, next, what I would do is, if my time permits, 2023 time permits, you have enough time, I would also do essay writing and answer writing. I would start practicing expression, precise, organized, concise expression, which this examination requires, without which also you cannot clear this examination. Why do I recommend that it be done first rather than later? Because it will inform your entire thought process. Like I explained in the previous challenge about essay writing, and you even wrote an essay, and you wrote some very good ones about technology being a double-edged sword. So that is how I would approach this. How to choose optional, Meenu Kumari, is a very interesting question, and I've been working on it. I have worked on it. There is something called the optionalizer. I have created a tool called the optionalizer, which I'll be sharing with you in the days to come, perhaps within a week or so. That tool will tell you, it will give you a number. It will be able to compare 2 or 3 optional subjects. You will have to first boil down your choices of optional subjects to 2 or 3 at most. 2 is preferable. Boil it down to 2, and then you put them through that analyzer tool, where it will ask you a number of questions, and it will ask you to rate certain questions, and it will give you a very good idea about which one you're likely to do very well in, and which one is better than the other. The one which scores better can be chosen, right? And it will ask you and force you a number of questions which you probably won't be able to answer instantaneously. You will have to go back to the books, you'll have to refer to the syllabus. That exercise will take a month, not a month, it will take a day or perhaps a day and a half, but it will be well worth it. So when I share that tool, make sure that you use it, and you'll figure out at least a very good, decent idea. Shahbaz, you would like to know, I understand this is a very nice way of catching my attention, but don't do that, because your question, I understand you want ancient, medieval, modern history. My answer to you is ancient, medieval, modern history. The answer for all of those is the NCRT to begin with. History is very vast, and you can get lost in it. Answer is NCRT and CCRT website, especially for ancient and especially for culture. This CCRT website is fantastic. I'm not kidding. It is wonderful. The archives that they have given in the visual audio section on their website is fantastic, phenomenal. Some of those are videos themselves. They'll take you on a tour of the Khajuraho temple, or they'll take you on a tour of the Taj Mahal, and they'll keep dictating about the important features. So most of your problems are solved right there. So you should do that. CCRT and Bipin Chandra. The question about whether what you should do after that should not appear before you have done these sources, right? Doing this is a tall order. If you can pull it off, you will be in a very good situation. I can guarantee that. Swati asks me how we revise current affairs without notes. Swati, the answer is keywords. I won't say much because I've said enough. So you can always look back on this and figure out. Pratik says what he can do in class 9th. Pratik, the best thing you can do in class 9th is be curious about the world. Ferociously curious. Read as much as you can. Don't worry about any exam. Increase your knowledge network, increase your exposure to the world, and enjoy yourself. Enjoy the learning process. If you can do that, you will crack any exam you want. Rishi wants to know about environment, and Rishabh wants to know about how many hours you should sleep. I'm going to take up Rishabh's question first. Rishabh Chaurasia. Rishabh, I see your question. It's a very good question which I've wanted to answer for a while. And today I'll be sharing some things which I myself did. You see, I've had a complicated relationship with sleeping, and I have been obsessed for a number of years about increasing intelligence. I admit it. I admit it. I have been obsessed about increasing intelligence for a number of years. And I have tried to do that to myself. I don't know if it has worked, but it appears that to some extent it might have. I have found, after reading books about biohacking, sleep, genetic therapies, and a lot of other things, which I don't want to get into, is that sleep is a very, very important nootropic. Sleep is not a investment in time. This is essential. More and more research in cognitive science and neuroscience is coming in. Sleep does more than we think it does. It will filter everything that has happened to you in the day, and it will hold and extract information which is standing out, and then it will try to store that in your long term memory. Sleep is extremely important. The number of hours which you should take, as much as sleep is concerned, depends on person to person, but I would say no less than 7 hours. And I would also like to say something here, a very important thing. You need to treat sleep just like Olympic athletes treat nutrition. You are an Olympic athlete of intellectual pursuits. If you are a UPSC aspirant, the volume of information you're consuming is enormous. Sleep is your bread and butter. Get enough sleep so that your brain is sharp, so that your memory retention is powerful. Make use of it. Do not ignore it. The other thing which is highly correlated with sleep, with the energy management, and with concentration, another question which I am constantly getting is, how do you concentrate? You want to study for 8 hours, but you can't just sit there and hope for the information to somehow filter inside your mind. You need to focus on it, and you need to filter it out. It's a lot of mental energy that is required. That answer to that is exercise. I was exercising regularly when I was preparing. I was not doing any weightlifting. I was doing basic jogging, but I was making sure that I'm exercising. Now, if you exercise, you will get tired and you probably will want to sleep. But let that happen, because I noticed that even if the number of hours that I had at my disposal after exercising was reduced. I used to have 8 hours. I invested in exercising. I ended up with 6.5 hours. But those 6.5 hours, my efficiency was very good. I got more out of it than I would have gotten just by sitting there. Use exercise as well. Now, anxiety. That's a very good question, Vishnu. Anxiety. How do you control anxiety? Keywords. I'll answer that. Himanshu. No, Himanshu. The best engine in the world to filter out keywords is Google. You have no idea the amount of computation power it packs. It is the world's biggest and most sophisticated search console engine ever created. It will give you and filter out things in your keyword which you didn't even know existed. You don't need to refer to Byju's or any other platform other than Google for keywords. Now, coming to the question of anxiety, that's a very good question, and here is what has helped me. Another admission, another confession. I am a type A person. Type A person, there are two types of persons. It is not a very strict delineation, but in popular psychology, in colloquial language, you can refer to the two types of people, type A, type B. Type A people are usually prone to anxiety, overachievers. They can take stress, they can become hyper focused, and they do not rest. They are known not to relax too much. Type B people are cool. They are calmer. They don't. They're not prone to stress. They're not prone to anxiety, and they don't. Uh, they perform very well under pressure. A very good example of type B person, I would say, is MS Dhoni. He is known, was known to remain calm under pressure. I am not that. I am type A. So it is very important for me as it is for you and many of you asking these questions about anxiety. And anxiety is a natural outcome of alertness. You have to understand that. Anxiety is a mechanism which makes you vigilant. It makes you sharp. It makes you ready to attack. It makes you focused. But if it gets even slightly little bit more than required, it will stop your functions. It will stop your mind. Your mind will just stop functioning. You can learn nothing. You can read nothing. If you're anxious, your mind is absent. That cannot happen. The one thing which has helped me more than any other thing regarding anxiety and concentration is meditation. I was a person who had a lot of difficulty concentrating all through my school years, all through my college years, found no respite whatsoever. Finally, went to a number of meditation retreats and learned the techniques. It took me a long time to get myself to calm down enough to learn those techniques. I learned those techniques and then I started practicing. The effects were gradual, but the effects were very prominent. The effects were tremendous. Meditation, and essentially, what in meditation? If you're talking about anxiety, you see, there is a command center in the body. That command center is the vagus nerve. Let's not get into the science of it, but let me just tell you that you can command your body to calm down by controlling your breath. You see, the breath going in, the breath coming out is a natural involuntary process for the most part. Most of the times we don't pay attention to this. It is an automatic process. Now you will notice that if you are stressed, if you are under some any form of stress, automatically without your approval or your knowledge, your breath will become shallow and your heartbeat will increase. This is happening because your body is getting ready to attack or it is getting ready to run. Flight or flight response is getting triggered. You can control that only through breath. You cannot control it through a mental command. You can't tell yourself, calm down, calm down, calm down. It will not calm down. The system will become even more hyperactive. You need to tell yourself to calm down by slowing the breath down. And the way to slow the breath down is to focus your attention on it. Listen to the breath. It's coming in, it's going out. It's coming in, it's going out. Pay attention to it. If you do that for 10 or 15 breaths, you will find automatically it is going down, the anxiety will start to dissipate. And before you know it, it will get eliminated. Shrutika, I understand that your question is about CSAT and you've asked that question a dozen times. I've noted it. CSAT, for CSAT, Shrutika, I think a very simple mechanism which I suggest is that you should refer to brilliant.org. I'll write it down for you so that you don't miss it. I am a big fan of this platform. I think they have done absolutely amazing work. Wonderful. They have created a very unique, innovative, interactive mechanism to drive home the basics of arithmetic, the basics of English. A very good source of language is this Purdue University Language Labs. You will find it if you Google it. Purdue University Language Lab. I'll write that down for you so that you can refer to it later as well. Very good source, completely free, absolutely free. So for math, brilliant.org, do all of their modules. Do all of their modules. There should be a sizable improvement in your understanding of it. Also, do the Purdue University language labs, which will help you a lot in your English. Apurva asks how much exercise plays a role in one's preparation. I would say, Apurva, quite a lot. I would say that it can lead to a difference of 5 to 10% in the final score. I am willing to bet that if you take two people of the same intelligence, same number of hours, same number of hard work, same amount of hard work, Same amount of everything. One person exercises, the other person doesn't. The one who exercises will come out on top. I'm willing to bet. Although I cannot say that for sure because I don't have a scientific study to quote, but there is more than enough research to support this assertion. The answer to your question, how important, is extremely important. Shubhavati asks if she can get 350 plus in math optional. Shubhavati, I have a friend who got 410. He got 410 in math optional, but he got it because he really, really liked math. He enjoyed it. And he was not just interested in arithmetic. He was interested in the patterns of mathematics, the geometry of it, how the geometry interacts with the arithmetic and the and number theory and all of those things. If you really like that, then you have a good chance. Otherwise, I think math is a very technical and it's a very skill-based optional subject. There are people who have a very good mathematical skill. I think only those should take it. Otherwise, okay, if you enjoy it, then by all means, go for it. Go for it. It's a very good option. If you get it correct, then the score is enormous. You will get 350, 400 if you get it correct. So that is something you'll have to see. Vishnu asks how to handle economics as you're a student of science. Vishnu, that is, I think, a very good starting point. Being a science student, you need to treat economics as a scientific discipline, which it is for the most part. What do you do in science? Say, for instance, you're a engineering graduate, or you're a graduate of, say, medical sciences, whatever it is. What does science do? Science does not believe in speculation. Science believes in numbers, in data. You give it data, they will deduce and they will only restrict their conclusions to what the data is suggesting. They will use data analytical methods. They will use correlation regression to figure out what the relationship between two variables is. Yes, this is what science does. They will take a hypothesis. A scientist will take a hypothesis. He will design an experiment. He will take the data which will emerge. He will see if the data is supporting his hypothesis. If it is not supporting it, he'll reject it. If it is supporting it, then he'll suggest that there might be a correlation. This is what they do in science. This is exactly what they do in economics. They will try to figure out what is the correlation between money supply and consumer behavior. What is the correlation between the GDP of a country and some other factors? What is the correlation between uh, the amount of savings in a country versus the amount of growth in a country? So all of these things are important scientific. The only thing is they are dealing with variables of demand and supply. They are dealing with commercial variables. Take that point of view and go into economics, and it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. I recommend a very, very good video about economics, which I highly recommend. It changed the way I looked at economics, and that one video will orient you towards the entire field. And that video is How Economic Machine Works by Ray Dalio. I'll mention that for you. How the Economic Machine Works by Ray Dalio. Now, Ray Dalio is no small fry. He is the owner and manager of the world's biggest hedge fund, which I think 50,000 crores or something is their market cap, but whatever it is, it's huge. And so Ray Dalio has built his entire business and his life based on scientific principles. And I like to, and I'm really appreciative of the type of approach he has. So watch this video of his. It's a 30-minute or so video, and it will explain to you the entire fundamentals of economics. After that video and understanding the concept of how the machine works, all you have to do is input the details and try to figure out what he's saying. Where is India in that machine? How is Indian economic machine working? And a lot of things will begin to clear out. Anjali wishes to know if making notes for NCRT is important. Anjali, I would say, like I mentioned, we don't do things the typical way here in our group, in our community with all my students. We do things according to some scientific principles. And that scientific principle is the hexatask method. In the hexatask method, note making comes into the picture, perhaps in the first reading or perhaps later in the second reading. In the first reading, we only annotate. We mention on the sidelines, on the margins, where things we find interesting and we want to catch our attention in the future. Then in the second reading, we might take them and condense them and make some detailed notes. Okay, this requires some training, and if you are in the mentorship program, then you will come across all of these things. Vidya wants to know how to prepare the whole history for prelim as well as mains along with resources and time. Vidya, what you want is a complete history plan. Now, what I can give you right now is only an orientation. Obviously, the orientation for history, uh, Firoj is asking a related question. So let's club those questions. Firoj asks, what about history and art and culture? I would say, Firoj, I would say yes, you should club them together because they are deeply interrelated. Culture is nothing but the things, elements, language, monuments, and important artifacts from the past which we find worth preserving. That is culture, and which has informed the past of a country and of the people of that country. And that is intertwined with history, and I don't think that there is uh, any escape from that. Firoj, you can stop asking that question on repeat because I've answered it. Yes, you should club history and culture. To answer the other question which we had clubbed, how to approach history. History needs to be approached from the point of view of curiosity, like the other subjects which I recommend. And you need to understand something. You see, history for you should be of a matter of very deep interest because you have been born. You are born in a country which has a very rich history, and by rich history, I mean a lot has happened here. A lot of very interesting stuff has happened in this country. It has changed shape, form, over a number of times. Think about it. This country, this subcontinent, is placed in perhaps the most one of the most strategic places in the world. It has been the subject and the location for civilizations, ancient civilizations. For people have been attracted to this place, to this country for millennia, and they have come bringing their own cultures. All of those cultures have become assimilated here, and the history of our country is a result of everything that happened. Now, you have to look at it from that perspective. Unfortunately, I can't get you to, I can't teach you history because, of course, I have limited time, but I can tell you about the approach. So, this would be it. Abhishek, I personally reply. I read everyone. It takes a lot of time. I'm a beginner in UPSC preparation. Tell me which subjects NTRD. Kaushik, if you are a beginner and if you have joined the mentorship program, then all of these things will come. Raj, I have read your question. Optional comes into the picture during preparation 2022. Raj, my answer to you is given the time frame that we have today. 2022 is about 6 months from now. Don't mess around with the optional right now. If you have, I would say not more than a month. Don't invest more than a month from this date onwards for if you are appearing 2022 because before you realize it, the prelims will come. You don't have time now. It will have to be done afterwards. It should have been done by now. Whatever you have done is fine. No more than 1 month can be given because general studies is critical. You have to realize that optional is absolutely useless. Absolutely useless if you can't get to the mains. Your priority is clearing prelims right now. That's your answer. Sudhakaran, you say you can't remember what you study. Sudhakaran, even I don't remember what I study. That is why I write notes. That is why we do annotation. This is why, like I showed you, I have created simple mechanisms everywhere. I sit with a pen. You see annotations here. This is what I don't remember what I read in this book. I'm going to pick it up. I picked it up for 3 years, and I don't know what is going on. But I give it a couple of minutes, and I see the chapter head, I see my annotation, and quickly I can start to memorize, right? So the answer to your question, Sudhakaran, is that you can't remember everything you study. That is why you leave clues, and that is why you revisit. You revisit, and your clues simplify things for you. Mahesh, I cannot enlighten you because I don't think you require enlightenment. But about your question of current affairs and CSAT, I have addressed both. So you can always come back to the video and see the answers. Sudhakaran, my friend, you are asking the same question again, and I can assure you that I have answered it. Hmm. So another question that I see is by Bibek. Bibek Roy is asking how to prepare ethics. Bibek, I've noted your question. How to prepare ethics. This itself requires a lot of discussion and a lot of analysis. It's one of my, it's very interesting subject to me because you see, ethics is a Akshay CCRT website, Council of Cultural Relations, I think. Council of, you will find it on Google. Coming back to your question, Vivek, ethics is very important and something which I have become interested in because it is a subject matter of philosophy. It is read in something called value theory. Ethics is also important for you from the point of view of the examination because I don't know if you know this or not, but in almost every country of the world, in the public services, in the recruitment stage, ethics is a subject matter of their recruitment. They are concerned about ethical testing and ethical training for public servants all across the world in most developed countries. Now that same idea has come into our country and it is for the better. It's a very important subject, and there is a secret resource for ethics. A secret resource. Would you like me to share the secret resource? I'll presume that your answer is yes. The secret resource is the Maracula Center of Ethical Research. This is an American university. I might get the spellings wrong, but application, they have created an application which will train you for case studies. The best resource in the world for ethics, for UPSC, for you people is Maracula. Go there and figure out what they're saying, read what they have to say about public policy and ethics in public services. That is your subject matter for the most part. Even in the ethics syllabus, the whole of the syllabus, you are interested in the ethics of public service particularly. They have done that better than anywhere I've seen. So that is one thing which you can do right away. Mohit, 12th hold NCRT, first reading. Mohit, your question, I think you emailed me also, and I told you that I recommend Bipin Chandra. I have not read Arjun Dev, but if they are equivalent, you can feel free to use anyone you want. I emailed this to you. I remember. I remember most of your names now. Most important quality that UPSC wants from us. Hmm. Most important, I would say number one, I won't lie to you and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Okay. So I'm going to tell it to you straight up based on what I think, on my own personal understanding. Number one is intelligence. They are testing for intelligence ruthlessly. And now, after many years in the job, I know why they test for it because it is a very complicated environment that you are thrown in. Very difficulty level is very high. Let me tell you that. Difficulty level of the real world, especially in the civil services of a country which is developing, is high. You require very high intelligence. Not going to sugarcoat that. Provide also, but I should say, intelligence can be increased. Like I mentioned, I've been at it for a while. I don't know if my IQ points have increased as such, but I think that I was able to sharpen at least some of my cognitive abilities because I was actually looking to do that particularly. Intelligence number one, curiosity number two, balance of judgment. I would say number three, number four, and very important, expression. They're looking for expression and communication. They're looking for a communicator. Can you communicate your thoughts? Can you communicate what you wish to say on paper? Can you do that in 100 words? 100 is nothing. 100 words is nothing. You, in your questions itself, you're writing about 20, 30 words. Five questions is 100 words. How do you explain something as complicated as GDP or inflation or farm subsidies or the history of the Chola Empire in 100 words? That's not easy. And that is a skill that is being tested very extensively. So these four would be your answer. Information management is a huge task. I do understand. A lot of the content, belligerent. Are you belligerent? But belligerent is a person who likes to fight a lot. I don't find you belligerent. You seem to be a very polite person. But don't worry about the information management. A lot of the content which I have created is exactly for this purpose. This is an issue I've had in my past, of course, and you also face it. How do you manage information management is the way you organize information. And the way I do it, and my students here, all my friends here do it, is that, like I said, we manage our resources according to a strategizer, or we use the hexatask method. We use the hexatask method. In the hexatask method, we don't go around consuming information just like that. We consume information according to levels of processing. So what we do, me and my students in our system, what we do is we do big picture formation first. We get an overview of the subject, we develop curiosity, we develop interest, and we get the neurons firing automatically, right? We want the organic process to begin. We do big picture formation through videos, through documentaries, through interesting stuff. Then we go on to approach the text in the first reading, where we look at the text, but we don't read it in detail. We only organize it, we sift through it, and like I mentioned, we annotate, like I showed you. We then go into second reading, and that is how we manage that information. So the answer to your question in one word would be hexatask method. It is exactly that. It is an information management mechanism. So Dhakaran, I understand that the problem with the BPF playlists is Hindi and not Tamil. I don't know what to do about that. Honestly, I cannot fix that. So here is what I want you to do, Sudhakaran. You find out if you can find substitutes for that video. One, two, find out if there are subtitles, and find out if you can have English subtitles for those videos. Now, I did not select any Hindi videos on my own. I was looking for the best possible videos, and I chose the videos based on the best videos out there. Now, the most videos happen to be in Hindi and or English. I understand the issue, but you have to work around it and be able to extract the message. If you cannot find an English variant, you can find subtitles, and if not that, then you can find an alternative video. By the description of the video itself, you know exactly what I'm trying to do. Sudhakaran, I remember, I know exactly, Sudhakaran, you are in touch with me on Instagram and on many other places. You already know our philosophy. You already know BPF. So don't stick to that playlist if it is not suiting your language needs. Use the same approach. Go find videos. You'll find them. Yes. Yes, Shahbaz, you're following Hexatask and old and new NCRTs. Yes, it will certainly work. Dipanshu, another friend of mine, also Dipanshu also asks a lot of questions. Dipanshu is a questioner, like many of my friends here. I remember most of them. Dipanshu, you want to know about the ARC reports, Administrative Reforms Commission. If you are asking about public administration, ARC is very important, especially for paper two. If you are asking about general studies, then not so important, but important for polity. Important for polity, I would say. Vidushi's lifestyle asks if a student of an open university can clear this examination. And my answer to Vidushi lifestyle is absolutely. Absolutely. Why not? I did not benefit from any university. I went there and I wasted my time and my parents' money. It was absolutely useless for me. I ended up educating myself in this very room. This room in which I am sitting today with you guys is where I prepared and where I have been preparing for I don't know what, even though the examination is over, for a long time. Yes, it is something to be done. It has got nothing to do with your university, nothing to do with your college grades, school grades. It's you and the level of curiosity and all that information, and that's it. There's nothing else standing in your way. You want optional. Now, another friend of mine who asks a lot of questions is Seneti Pati, Selva Kumaran. I apologize if I didn't say that name correctly. Selva Kumaran, you want clarity about optional subject. Depending on your optional subject, I will try to give you as much clarity as I possibly can. You can email it to me, and but my restriction is towards philosophy, psychology, public administration. I can be confident in suggesting things to you in those subjects, but I can't go beyond that because I can't call myself an expert. So I desist from commenting on anything which I'm not very sure about. Raj wishes to know how to prepare for language. Is that an issue for you, Raj Verma? If language is an issue for you, I'll tell you what I did. Mm, My for my language subject, I had Hindi. So I just solved some previous year questions and I found it easy enough. I didn't score very high, but I didn't need to. Selva Kumar in anthropology, not not happy commenting about it. I don't want to say anything which can take you off track, so I will desist from answering. Coming back to Raj Verma's question. So Raj, that is your answer right there. That is your answer. PSIR optional. Mohammed Mohsin asks PSIR. I have some idea about this because I have been looking into this PSIR issue for a while. For PSIR, I have found that the Ministry of External Affairs website is absolutely phenomenal. Everybody who has PSIR optional should be looking at that website. They have these amazing articles for free. These articles have been written by diplomats, by other bureaucrats. There are speeches, there are some videos, and this is really good stuff because it is very dynamic, it is very relevant to current affairs, and it's very intelligently written. Again, with PSIR, since you are dealing with international relations, since you are dealing with these things, you have to know what the government stand on many issues is, on various collaborations or different countries, and the relationship should be clear. And in these speeches on the External Affairs Ministry of External Affairs website, you find a lot of good information. I have found that myself. I understand Varun Dubey is asking. Varun, you asked about Hindu. I have covered that question, Varun. When this session is over, you can come back to the video and you can see what I said about the Hindu. I have the Hindu here and we had a discussion about it. We spent around 10-15 minutes on that. LLB, law. I can't comment on law, but I can comment on philosophy optional. But I don't want to go into optionals because let us restrict our discussion to things which are more applicable. Raj, I've answered your question. I didn't find the language paper to be problematic. If you find it to be problematic, just make sure you solve a few question papers, at least 3 or 4. If it's a weak spot, make sure you don't get eliminated because of the language paper, because that would be absolutely wasteful. Just make sure that your English optional. Your English seems to be good enough. You will clear it. I don't think there you will have a problem. If you think it's going to be an issue, if you think language English optional is going to be an issue, solve some papers. Solve some previous year question papers. And I will be giving you some practice in the mentorship program anyway. Raghav asks if there will be any problem because he's from a media background. Raghav, absolutely not. If anything, there might be an advantage if you know how to use those advantages. Particularly in the interview, you can use that. Jargon list. Natika Bhargav wants to know if she can make a jargon list. Natika, I don't recommend making a jargon list, but I do recommend searching for technical terms as they come along. Say a technical term comes along and you're reading, you Google it and you find out what it means. Translate it in your mind, write it once. You need to translate jargonized words. You don't need to memorize what they mean. By translate, I mean take a word, a complicated word, convert it into common sense language. And once converted, it will always remain in your mind. There should be no need for a list. PYQs, Akshita, PYQs. Akshita, your question has been noted, and a complete session is required for this PYQs. We'll get into it. I'm not getting into it because the issue is with PYQs, you have a lot of subjects. You have to talk about a lot of subjects. I want to make sure the discussion remains. This PYQ analyzer is very much in the pipeline and very much on my priority list. I will talk about it in a separate session altogether. No, it will not be a problem, Raj. Why are you worried? Whether you completed your graduation at 24 or 25 doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter. Nothing will happen. Don't worry. Selecting optional, I have recommended. We'll talk about that. Somebody asks if if the examination can be cleared in a span of 6 months. I would say yes, but difficult. My friend here, Om Gimare, who is attracting my attention with the use of colorful uh, colors, with a lot of colors. He probably knows that I like colors because he will probably judge my taste for colors from the Navigator. Om Gimare, your answer is this: home cadre for clearing UPSC. Don't worry about it. Okay, if you are clearing the UPSC, your home cadre is India. Be prepared to serve anywhere in the country. Wherever you serve in this country, after clearing the UPSC will be a privilege. Don't worry about home. And wherever you end up serving, I tell you, will become home. Your definition when home will change after you enter the services. Old NCRT or new NCRT? Okay, that's a question which is coming. Old NCRT versus new NCRT. I would say pick up the old one for history and the rest pick up the new ones. And I am sure there is a lot of overlap between them. You know, there is a lot of overlap between them. It would depend on the subject. I did, of course, the old ones. The new ones, you'll have to see if they are worth it. And I'm sure they will be. Why not? A new NCRT, you see, is something which the government and our education system sanctifies. It sanctifies and it establishes that, yes, this is something that we must teach the students of our country. This is official syllabus. So they can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with new NCRTs. You can't go wrong with old ones also. Old or new doesn't matter. The information will more or less remain the same. Debarjeet wants to know about first reading and what not to read. Debarjeet, that has been dealt with in considerable detail in a previous video, which I'll recommend that you go back and watch. You'll find it. Om Gimare, with your colorful questions, I've already answered your question. So their answer is don't worry about home cadre. India is your home cadre. Akshita, that's an interesting question. You say, can you prepare for judiciary as well as UPSC with law optional? Akshita, I don't exactly know what they ask you in the examination for the judiciary, but if general studies is a part of it, then yes, I think it can be. As per my understanding and the best of my knowledge, judiciary examinations don't have a fixed pattern, and as vacancy comes, they put out the notification, and then people appear in this examination. Is that correct? I think you can prepare with law optional, but I don't think it's a very good strategy. You will have to be careful here. If you were talking about how to prepare law optional for a state service and a UPS and the UPSC simultaneously, I would say yes, go for it. But with the judiciary, I am not sure. You will have to see what level of overlap they have, and you will have to see if you can accommodate it. And also, you would have to see if which one interests you more, which one are you inclined towards, because they're both not easy. I won't lie to you about that. IAS work how many times in a week? Subham asks if RBI grade and UPSC can be prepared. Yes, Subham, I believe a lot of people do that. They prepare RBI and UPSC simultaneously quite a lot of times. I've seen that. Mohit, you can go ahead and change the time according to your needs. That is what the flexibility has been built in for in the strategizer. Math optional. Math optional, I will not feel comfortable in guiding or commenting too much, Sudhakaran and others, for maths optional, because it has never been my subject of study. I am fascinated by it. I really like it, but I have never done professional math. I have never done any graduation or any qualification in math. So I will desist from answering that question. Philosophy, yes, I can tell you, which will it will require this whole room is full of philosophy. I could go on for days talking about philosophy, but I'll take the last question now since we've already crossed the 1 hour mark, and it's been a lot of fun talking to you, and we shared quite a lot of interesting insights and information. The question that I want to take up has been asked by Rimjim. She asks, what do you do about self-doubt? During your preparation journey, you'll have self-doubt and you'll have moments and times when you will find it hard to hold on to your goal. In moments of self-doubt, you should remind yourself of the amazing progress you have already made. You should also remind yourself of what your aim actually was. You're taking the UPSC examination. Yes, you want to clear it. But let me tell you something. And in fact, at this point, I'm going to ask you to stop your questions and listen to this message, because after this, we'll sign off and we'll have more sessions. We'll have more questions. I'm not going anywhere. At least I hope, at least I think I'm not. Self doubt. And the basic fundamental question that you are trying to conquer the UPSC examination, but you're doing something else. Let me tell you this. If you are preparing for the UPSC examination, if you are studying for it, and if you have achieved a decent level, you have done something remarkable, practically remarkable. You have become amongst the 99.9% most educated people of this country. If you have prepared for the UPSC and if you have studied it well enough, it is at least 99.9, perhaps 99.5, but not more than that. With 99.5 percentile of education at your command, there is nothing you can't do, let alone the UPSC. This is a whole world of entrepreneurship where you can put your skills to use in the education sector. People will want to learn from you. Are you telling me that after doing all of this study, and if you happen not to clear the examination, you're handicapped? Absolutely not. It is the start of something enormous. You will educate yourself to the point that you will be unstoppable wherever you go. Trust me on that. I've seen it so many times. Use that. The skills that you are learning here, nobody at your age, mostly, will go through this kind of intellectual rigor, this kind of intellectual practice, this kind of journey. You come out of it after a year and a half, you will have learned a lot. Okay. And if you can't put that to use in the world, what are you doing? That is valuable. The information you've gained, not only the information, it's the skills you've gained. You have gained the skills to absorb any information. Your mind is now completely expanded to a level which most people can't. Most people can never reach. Use that to teach other people. That is the number one thing you can do right off the bat. First thing you can do is teach other people, then use and go explore the endless possibilities out there in front of you, waiting. Vivek, you want to know how to be a good command in spoken English? Vivek, I recommend that you do what I do and you speak the English in order for it to become more fluent. I had my hesitations as well, and it took a while to overcome them. But spoken English, I've seen, is something which just happens in due course of time. It's a very spontaneous process because speaking itself, grammar and speaking and language is embedded in our minds very deeply. In humans, it is embedded. As you start using it, as you start exercising those modules in the brain, over here, right, or perhaps the left, this is an area of the brain here. You have an area called a Broca's area. Broca's area is an area of the brain useful, not useful, instrumental for synthesizing language. Use that. It's a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Mushir, the answer to your question is also the same. Use that language center. You want to know, Mushir wants to know how to increase his writing abilities. And he's not confident in the writing and expression part of it. Mushir, it comes with practice. It comes. Perhaps English is not something you're very comfortable with. It will take time, but it will come. This is why I recommend starting some form of writing or at least thinking, which will help you analyze and synthesize. That is why we had that previous challenge in which you wrote essays. The answer to your question is with some practice. Yes, it comes. With regular exposure, it comes. Revision strategy. Anchal, revision strategy has been dealt with comprehensively. It's part of the extra task method. But now, today, I do not have any time to go into it. Vivek wants to know if I have written any cheat book for prelims 2022. No, Vivek, I wish I could write cheat books as fast as you expect them, but they take a long time to write. it takes years or months to write something like that. No, I have not written any cheat book for 2022 prelims, but I have created this navigator and the strategizer, which is a very useful synthesizer and tracking tool. And I've also played the ultimate game, right? We have the ultimate game going on. There's a long story behind it. You'll find it as you explore the YouTube channel. You'll find some useful videos and you'll get a lot of insight. So go ahead and do that. So Dhakaran, my friend, I do remember you. I remember your red shirt. I remember your face, and I do not forget easily. You are there in my mind, like all my other students. So don't worry. Here, Pooja asks if which optional subject I can guide best. I would say I can guide best in philosophy and psychology, followed by public administration. Swati, yes. Swati asks if answer writing should begin, and I would say yes. Answer writing should begin at the outset. Not, it's not a matter of answer writing. It's a matter of writing. You see, like I mentioned, there is a muscle in your brain which is used for writing, synthesizing language, condensing, and then writing. Use that muscle. And so that's why it should be done in the beginning. So that's all the time that we have for today. I don't know about you, but it has been a pleasure speaking with you tonight. A lot of fun. And I hope I was able to clear some of your doubts, if not all. Whatever I could do, given the time and the constraint, of course, of the number of people that we have here, I've done. And with that, I will sign off. I give you my best. I hope that you have a very good weekend and that you exercise curiosity in that weekend. I hope that you study hard and I hope that you enjoy it. If there is one message that I can give you guys, one message that encapsulates everything that I do and everything I have learned, that one message is this: enjoy the learning process. Enjoy it. It's not a sugar coated, cliched message. It is a secret which has power. Because you enjoy it, your brain is going to absorb it more. It will trigger a chain reaction, and you will never be able to change that chain reaction. And before you know it, you will find yourself in a room like this, surrounded by books. So if you like what you are seeing here, then get curious. That's all the time we have. Wonderful speaking with you. And I hope to see you soon. Have a good night and have a good weekend. Good night.